That's us, the glass painting experts.
Or as most people call us, the two fat glass painters. That's Barry.
And that's Alan. Alan started the business over 20 years ago.
20 years, oh, and I've still kept my figure.
During the course of this video, we're going to show you how to use Rainbow Glass products to their best effect.
And the best techniques. Starting off with an ordinary triangle of good quality greaseproof paper. Now all you do is fold it over here, fold it over there, and just jiggle it about a bit so you get a nice point on the end. Fold it at the over twice, and there you have it, an outlining bag. Easy. Didn't go too fast, did I?
No.
Never mind, next time we'll go much slower. Right, we're going to tackle some outlining now. The outlining comes in 3 different colours: black, silver and gold. We're going to use black first of all. Now always make sure that your bottles are upside down in a glass like this. That means that when you go to pipe an outline, all the lead is all down in the bottom here, and you don't get that raspberry sound or lead splattering all over your glass. It just helps. We've got them in these bottles to make it easy to squeeze. They're really good. If you've got arthritis, you can squeeze them like that. There's lots of ways of doing it. Anyway, I'll show you how these work. Just take a design, and for now, because we're practicing, just take an ordinary piece of acetate or a scrap piece of glass, lay it over the design, and just outline. Now support your hand. I actually put it on the table for a bit of support, or if you want to do long flowing lines, just lift your hand up with your other hand so you can get kind of a nice pivotal effect. And you can start outlining. Just gently squeeze it. That's the eye. And always try and work on the area in front of you. Don't try and do too much at once. So I'm going to just touch it there. You just touch the glass. If you get a mistake like that, don't worry about it. I'll show you what to do with that later. You just let it dry and then cut it out with a scalpel. It's much easier. So you just touch and lift. Can you see how you're lifting? And it's much easier to lay the liquid lead down onto the glass if you lift it up like that. Turn the design round to make it easy. Make sure you reposition all the time. Just shake your bottle to make sure the lead's coming down. Don't worry about that, told you. If it breaks like that, just touch the outliner and just join it up. There you go. There's a little gap there, so just go back to it and touch it up. Simple. And then you just take that away and there's your finished outlined piece of glass or film. Now you can see these couple of mistakes here that where it actually blotches. I'll show you how to rectify that now. I've got a dolphin here on a piece of glass. Now there's nothing wrong with that at all, but say this tail was all wrong. You just take a scalpel and you just nip it there and nip it there, and then this just peels off, and then you just re-outline that section again. So there's no need to worry about if you'd make a mistake. It's so easy just to cut it out, and it's so much easier to leave it and let it dry and cut out than to try and rectify your mistakes while it's still wet, because you'll just get in more of a mess, trust me. You can also use these outlining bottles with our nozzles. Now these nozzles can be cut to any length you want, so the more you cut off, the larger the hole would be. And all you do, literally, shake the outliner down, make sure it's all down here to help, and this just pushes onto the end. And if you've got another piece of film, then you can practice with this outliner and the nozzle on the end. See how you get a much finer line? Now that's our nozzles. Now to clean those up, all you do is just take them off and you just run that under a cold water tap, and with a brush you just stick a brush in the end until it's nice and clean, blow it through, and that'll be nice and clean, fine. Then you can use it again. Or what you can do is, you've got a glass of water, just drop it into a glass of water, say you're using 3 or 4, and then leave them overnight, and you'll find that the outliner will dissolve, and then it's a little bit easier to clean. So that's those. But as I told you before, our most important tool is an outlining bag. Now I'll show you how to make one of those much slower this time. All you do is you get some good quality greaseproof paper. Now you start off with a square like that of greaseproof paper. You fold it in half and just cut it down the middle there. Now you keep your point of the greaseproof paper bag towards you. Now just for this exercise, I'll fold it in half so you can see exactly where I want you to put the lines and where they should go. So you take this here, I'm left-handed, if you're right-handed it's the other way around. You take this corner here, and this side here is going to be lying down this middle line here. So you just fold it over like that, and it looks a bit like a cone or a dunce's hat. And that line is straight down the back there. Now this line here is going to line up with a line there at the back there too. So you just take it over the top, and then you just jiggle it about. Now what I'm actually doing is, the inside I'm pushing forward, and the outside here I'm pulling backwards. So you just jiggle it until you get a nice, holding it firmly, your thumbs are inside, your fingers are at the back. You just jiggle it about until you get a nice sharp point in there. You could actually fill that with water and it wouldn't drip out. And then you just take the ends here, fold them over once, and fold them over twice. Now these are great to use. We much prefer using these than any of the bottles. You can fill that up with outliner, you can fill it up with paint, you can fill it up with glue even. It's so much easier to use. Say you're using silicone glue. Now you can buy the little tubes like that cost about £2, or you can buy those whopping big tubes like that which cost about £3. But those big tubes like that are so difficult to use. But if you just squeeze a bit of the silicone glue into these, fold it up and use that, you're saving yourself money. Anyway, this is how they work. You just fill up the bag. See, getting that raspberry sound. Being polite. There you go. Always replace your lid, because if you left the lid off that, it could go all dry and it'd be more difficult to use in the future. Now fold over, keep the line at the back, that's going to be your underneath side. So that's a nice smooth on the top there. So you just fold in the corners like that. See? And then you roll it over from the back keeping up the pressure on the inside. And just roll it up until you get it nice and firm. You can see there's just a little bit of outliner coming out there. Now, one thing that we always use is a piece of kitchen towel. Now this is like, it's really good whether you're painting or outlining. Just fold it into 4 and always keep it at the side where you're working, so that if you do get any little blobs on the end, you don't want those going onto your glass, because it'll just make your glass look a bit uneven when you start. So if you get a blob on the end like that, just wipe it onto your kitchen towel and then it's ready to go. Now what we're going to do now is practice, practice, practice. I know, it's a dirty word, but you've got to do it, otherwise there's going to be lots of problems in the future and your work's going to just look like rubbish basically. So anyway, all you have to do is get one of our practice sheets, or make your own up, just do squiggles, lines, and you really have to practice. Okay, there's no other way around it, you have to do a little bit of practicing, and then in the future all your work is going to look really good. So just put a piece of film over the top. You only have to do this 5 minutes a day, and you'll find by the end of the week you'll be an expert piper. Then once you've learnt it, it means you can do any type of work you want, and your work is always going to look good. Right, I'll show you a few tips on how to paint outline now. Right, using the outlining bag, just touch the film or the glass and just gently lift it up, laying it down, and when you want to come off, just stop squeezing, touch the glass and just take it off. So you just touch the glass, lift, and you can lift it quite high. The higher you lift it, the more control you've got. And down, touch, lift. Oh dear, the telephone's going. What do you do now? Well, if you want, you can just stop. So just bring it down, take it off, go and answer the telephone, then come back, touch the lead, lift, and carry on. Now what you're going to do when you first start, everybody does, so don't worry. You're going to panic and you're going to put it right next to the glass and you're going to run it along and you're going to get all wobbly and you're going to make a mess. So your line's going to look really weird. So I don't want you doing that. So just go for it. Don't panic, just go for it. So just touch and lift and lay it down. Now if you watch this hand, I'm not actually lifting my hand off the table. If you've got you want some control there. So if I try to do it, I'm a clever clog, I can, but you won't be able to when you first start. You'll find there's no support for your hand there, and you're going to shake and your line's going to go all wobbly and there's no support at all. So what I do is always work down towards you and my hand's firmly on the table like that, and you just slide your hand down the table so you get a nice long straight line like so. And I'm actually pushing it with the other hand. So if you've got a long line to do, say like this, you can actually support your hand with this other hand here. So if you want to do a nice long straight line, my hand's off the table now. It has to be because I want a nice long line. But I'm going to support it with this hand. So the hand that's actually moving is my right hand, and it's actually pushing my left hand down the table. So I can get a nice long straight line. I don't want to see all your lines wobbly. They will be at first, but then just go hard, just practice hard and just concentrate on getting a nice straight line. Don't worry about going fast. Quickness will come in time. Just touch, lift and lay down. Touch, lift and lay down. Touch, lift and lay down. Now just work your way around the film. Go from side to side, exactly the same. Lay it down. Onto the glass. Lift. Lay it down, take it off. Touch. Lift. Lay it down, take it off. Touch. lift, lay it down, take it off.
There are 19 colours in the Rainbow Glass transparent range of paints, all giving brilliant depth of colour. Now I'm going to paint this dolphin that Alan piped earlier on, and I'm going to paint it with transparent turquoise. One important thing to remember with this type of paint is that it's free flowing, and so it's a good idea to make sure that you check the table with a level first. If you don't do that, you can end up with the paint pooling in one area of your project, which may be not what you want to achieve. Always hold the bottle over the area that you're painting. That way, if you do drip paint, you're more likely to drip it into the area where you want paint to be anyway. Now put plenty of paint onto your brush and just tease the paint up to the outliner, leaving no gaps. And just move the paint with the brush, putting plenty of paint onto it. Then you can just move the project around slightly so you're not risking dropping paint into an area where you don't want it to go. If you do make a mistake with the paint and you do drip it into an area where it's not wanted, my advice is to leave it to dry and then cut it out with a scalpel or a craft knife. You may want to go over it again with some clear paint just to make sure that all the stain has been taken out of it. Now with this type of paint, you cannot paint an area immediately adjacent to the area you've just painted until it's dry, because if you do that, it will bleed into the colour you've just painted. So to get over that problem, I painted a belly of a dolphin, I painted the body of a dolphin earlier on. So now I can paint the belly of the dolphin and the sea. The belly will be painted with white pearl, and the sea will be white pearl, turquoise and deep aqua transparent. Again, just tease it up to the outliner. Just turn that around. So take the white pearl up to the tip of the sea. The pearl paints and the transparent paints blend very well together, and this should give quite a dramatic, stormy effect. So now I'm going to paint little turquoise into there. Just wipe the brush again, and lastly the deep aqua. Just flicking it into the white pearl, just making sure that the colours blend. Okay. And then the very last thing that we can do on this is paint the border. And we're going to do that with Rainbow Glass water-based clear paint. Let's take the top off, and with this you just doodle it on straight from the bottle. Take it all around the border, and this will dry, giving a textured ripple effect. can just put that on one side and show you what that looks like. Just put the top back on. Always a good idea to put the top on. And there it is finished. See that rippled effect in the border? If you want to, you can add some more interest to your project by dropping some rainbow glass plastic granules into the wet paint. That's how we achieve the effect with this vase here. Now the dolphin that I painted earlier on is still wet, so I can drop some granules into it now to show you how this works. You can pick up any stray granules afterwards with your paintbrush. Just drop them into the paint. Don't worry about the granules that are not actually in the paint, they'll just pick off afterwards. And then when you've dropped enough granules onto the project, just go over it again with the turquoise paint, which I'll just show you how to do. And this will just make sure they're held in place. Okay, that gives you an idea of how that works. If I just move that one out of the way, then I can show you what one looks like when it's actually finished. There you are, just adds a bit more interest.
Right, now I'm going to show you how to use the rainbow glass painting film. This is the clear. Now, it's for doing jobs which are usually quite difficult to do, like doing this vase or doing this vase here. Where you'd normally have to put a design behind the glass and then outline onto the glass and paint onto the glass, to do a vase like this would take forever. Using the film, it makes it so much easier. But before you start, make sure you're going to outline and paint onto the right side. Now just pull it back and you can see how it just separates. Now this is the sticky side. It's the side that you want to outline and paint onto. So make sure that's uppermost. If you have trouble separating it, our tip is just take 2 pieces of tape, just stick them together like that and just pull it apart, and that helps separate it. So that makes it quite easy. Right, so take the chosen design, place your film over the top. I have an outlining bag here that I made earlier, filled it full of black outliner, just squeeze a little bit out the end just to make sure it's okay, and then you can outline directly onto the film. Just touch the film and gently squeeze out of the bag. A nice big blob for the eye. Squeeze the outliner, following the design. There you go, blobbed. Just touch the film, lift, and in a nice gentle movement, just make the line nice and smooth. For a long sweep at the outliner, I'm going to actually move my hand down the table, and you can see it's probably supported by the other hand. This just helps you create a nice long straight line. And down the other side. Now for the fins. Just touch and lift, lay it down. Touch, lift, lay it down. Touch, lift, lay it down. Take it off. Touch, lift, lay it down. Touch, lift, lay it down. You see how nicely the outliner flows. Nice long straight lines. There you go. Now you just slide away the design and there you are, left with the outliner on the film. Now you just let this dry for about an hour, 2 hours, overnight if you wish. I've got one here that I made which is dry and we can start painting it. We're going to use Rainbow Glass Pearl paints. They come in 16 different colours, 17 if you include the iridescent. Now, one thing you must do before you start using the pearlized paint is to give it a good shake, because you'll find that the pearlized pigments will have sunken to the bottom and you need to agitate those so you get a good dispersion of the pigments. The best way that we do it is to take a screwdriver, flat-headed, put it into the pearlized paint and just scrape all those pigments off the bottom of the bottle. Just wipe off the excess colour, paint, replace the lid and give it a good shake. This is my best bit. I love you very much. I love this paint.
Get on with it!
Shut up. Anyway, you just let that dry now. Just let that relax now for about 5 minutes so all the air bubbles disperse. And then when it's ready, you're ready to use it. Now we're going to paint this Koya carp, and you can either go to the library and get a book on Koya carps because they're all different kind of colour schemes, and to give you a bit of inspiration you might find it helps. But I've painted hundreds of the things, so I'm just going to paint this freehand. And you'll see as I paint it along, it all blends in together and looks really good. I'm going to start with the black. Now this is not a pearlized paint. This is just our ordinary black transparent paint. Hold your bottle over where you're painting so that when you paint, any drips that should accidentally fall should actually go where you want the paint to be, so you're not spending half your time cleaning up. And a bit more down here near the tail. There you go. Always make sure that you wipe your brush. Just squeeze it in between the kitchen towel and you'll find there'll be no paint left in your paintbrush. Now I'm going to add some red pearl. Just brush it on like that. Clean your brush. If for some reason you think there's still a lot of paint in your brush, in this, and the red is the worst one to do, just dip your brush into the next colour, absorb some of the colour and give it another wipe, and you'll find if there's any red left it'll come out and it'll make sure your brush is really nice and clean. Anyway, I'm going to use the orange next. Hold the bottle over where you're painting, and as you can see we're just dropping it onto the film and it's just running and finding its own level. You want them all to kind of run into each other, because as it dries it really takes on some really fantastic effects. It's the only paint I know which is actually interesting to watch it dry, because over the next 15 minutes it'll start, well, I don't know, crystallising I suppose, and giving really nice effects. And it's fun to see all the colours just blending in together. Wipe off the excess orange, take the yellow, paint in the yellow. You can probably see already how the paints are all gently mixing in together. And it's great to see them work. There we go. Clean your brush. And now we'll add the white pearl. Now we use the white pearl not just to give white areas, but when we've painted a piece of glass with assorted colours of pearlized paint, we usually go and drop a few drops of white pearl into it, so that as it dries it mingles in and it really creates nice highlights. You can see how they're all mixing together now and really creating a lovely effect. When you're dipping your white soaked brush into the paint, if you get any black on the end of it, or orange or yellow, just wipe it off onto the kitchen towel, because if you put the black paint into there, before long your white paint would have discoloured. There you go. And now just a few drops of white to give those highlights. Now this will take about 15 minutes for it to dry properly, and halfway through you can also add more highlights with the white, and this is called time-lapse painting. We're not going into too much detail that now because this is the beginner's video, and we'll do the best we can with it. Now to make something special, because it's a fish, we've got an iridescent paint which changes colours. It goes from red to green to white, and just drop in some iridescent, and that'll give the fish a lovely kind of iridescent scaly effect. There you go, and there's the fish. That's ready now. Now you just leave it for 15 minutes and you watch it. It's the only paint worth watching. It really dries interesting. So I'll just put this to one side and then you can watch it dry. After 10 minutes or so, if you want, you can make the highlights more distinct just by adding more white pearl. And you probably think we're putting too much on, but you watch, it'll just blend in nicely. So when it's completely dry, you can just cut it out. just started this one off, and all you do is cut right up to the line, as close as you can get it. So when it's finished, all you have to do is peel off the back of the film, like so. But before you do that, a good tip is just position it onto the glass where you want it to go. Now I've already got a fish stuck on here, and I want to put one on the other side, so you can try all different kind of ways of doing it. I think it might look quite good, upside down, swimming around that way. But I'm not going to stick it on this vase. I've got a much better place for this, and I'll show you it later.
You may be wondering what a photocopy has got to do with glass painting. Well, the next project we're going to do uses rainbow glass photocopy film. This is a self-adhesive film which enables you to do some really interesting projects and designs without having to do the outlining yourself, because a photocopy is going to do the work for you.
So you just put the design onto the photocopier, put the film at the end tray, make sure it's on the right setting on the photocopier, put it down, press, the film is thread through the end, and it comes out printed, ready to paint.
This is the photocopied film. Now if you wanted to, you could outline around the edge of the design to give it some extra definition, but I'm not going to do that. Now I photocopied one earlier on, and I cut it away from the other two to make it easier for me to paint, and that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start with Royal Blue Transparent. Now the paint has a very good surface tension, but what you must make sure that you don't do is rub your brush into the design, because if you do that it will smudge. And lastly, I'm going to drop some clear in to give some highlights. There you are, finished seahorse. Now when the seahorse is dry, you can paint around the edge of the seahorse so that you're not wasting the film that's there. And later on we can cut that out and use it for seaweed. Now I'm going to paint that with Kelly green and light green. When the seahorse design is dried, you can cut it out and apply it to your project. I've already started cutting this one out. What you need to do is make sure that you cut as near to the line as possible. Just like this. Now to make things a little bit easier, I cut one of these out earlier on, and there it is ready. Now you also remember that we painted the surround of the seahorse in green paint, and that was so that we could make some seaweed. And what you need to do with that is just cut some rough seaweed shapes out of the film like this. Do long ones and short ones. Oops. Okay, again, to make life a little bit easier, I did some of those earlier on as well. So this is what we're going to apply the seahorse to. As you can see, I did this earlier on, and now just going to take the backing sheet off like this to expose the sticky side, and then I'm going to apply it to the vase. Like that, and then you can just apply the seaweed, and that's how it should look. And then the only thing that's missing for this now is some flowers. There you go, finished.
Okay, I'm going to show you how to use our water-based paints now. When we developed these, we wanted a paint that did more than just water down and paint with it. We wanted it to be doing lots of different things, so I'm going to show you what you can do with it now. They come in a bottle like this. So all you do is just doodle it onto the glass. When you doodle on, you'll find that the paints are quite opaque, but as they dry, they go clear. So you just doodle it all on, and the more textured you make it, when it dries, the more interesting it looks. Now that's one way of using it. Second way is just dab a bit onto the glass, get an old sponge and just rip a bit off, and then just dab it on so you get a nice stippled effect. Like so. If you need a bit more paint, just squeeze it on. So if you're doing things like stenciling, this is a really good way of applying the paint. Now the other thing that you can do with this paint is water it down. Now you can either do that into a mixing cup like this, or you can do it directly onto the glass. So I'll just pour a little bit of water into this cup, and just with an ordinary brush, just drop water onto the paint and water it down. Now you can make this as thick or as thin as you want. And then you can almost get like a colour wash effect and make it nice and flowing. You can even drop more paint in or water in afterwards. like so. Or what you can do, and we're really pleased with this, it's great, you can take your paint and put it in a cup. And then we have a special thickening agent, which you just add a few drops. The more you add, the thicker the paint becomes. Just squeeze it in, and then either with a brush or a little mixing tool like this, just mix it in, and you'll see that slowly thickening up. See how thick it's gone already? Just mix that nice and smoothly. And let's say you can add more paint or more thickener to get to the consistency that you want to use. And if you have an outlining bag already, just scoop out the paint out of the pot and put it into the outlining bag. As I say, you can make this as thick as you like. Then fold up your bag like I showed you earlier. And that means you can transform all these paints and you'll get 18 outlining pastes as well. 8 outlining colours. We even have a fluorescent, a pearlised, a clear, lots of different colours. So you just cut the end off like that. And the same paint you can actually turn into an outline. So that's one paint doing 4 different jobs. I'll show you on this dolphin what you can do. I'll just move that to one side. Here's a dolphin I made earlier, and this was just outlined in our ordinary outlining paste and then painted directly from the bottle, and white as well. And then when it's dry, I usually leave it overnight, just with the help of a scalpel perhaps to get you started. You can just lift this off and it just peels off the glass really easily, and then that can just be stuck onto a mirror, a glass, but I'll just stick it onto this vase here. Just lay it down. There you go, and the dolphin's just stuck on there, no problem. And if you don't want to leave it on there, you can peel it off and stick it onto something else. So that's how that works. Now I'll just show you how. This is just a simple, easy way of using the water-based paints. Right, I've got some water-based paints on this bit of film here, but you can use a plate covered in cling film or tin foil. Just squeeze a little bit out so you've got your palette ready to use. Now all you're going to do is just get an inexpensive piece of glass. I've got a nice little glass box here, and literally this is great, this is where the kids love it. Just stick your finger in and rub the paint all over, like so. I'm putting purple water based on first, then you can stick a bit of blue in. You can see why the kids love this one, can't you? It's so quick and easy to do. A little bit of blue all over, and just be as rough or as gentle as you want. And a little bit of yellow, and you can leave it quite thick because it gives it a nice effect as it dries. And there at the end we've just got a little bit of our pearlised and our iridescent paint there, and I'm just going to rub a little bit in, and that as it dries will give it a nice lustre effect. And get nice and messy on this one. So you don't need much skill for that one, just rub it all on and just leave it to dry. Now at this stage you can either wait for about 10 or 15 minutes for this to slightly glaze over and just get a little bit of a skin on, and then you can probably stick these on quite well, no problem. But if you want, just let it dry, and then you can stick on these using the silicone glue. And all you do is take one of the glass beads, just squeeze a little blob of the silicone on and stick it onto the glass. It goes on quite easily. Little heart shape, just a blob. And perhaps a moon shape. And there you go, a very easy to make glass candle holder. And can you see how the lustre is shining on it? This is rainbow glass cling film, which is really great if you want to do some Christmas decorations. You pipe on it, you paint on it, and you just stick them on the window, peel them on and off as often as you like. Great to use. Now, all you do is you put a design underneath. Now I'm really lucky, I've got a glass top table with a light underneath, but normally it's quite difficult to actually see the design through. A couple of ways to overcome that is take a piece of our extra thick film and just peel the cling film off the backing card and stick it onto the extra thick film, and then just put that over the design, outline and pipe in the same way and paint. Or you can do the same thing with a piece of glass, and there's the film just stuck to it, just outline it and paint it. Or if you're really lucky, you can use a light box if you've got one, but not everybody's got one of these, so the other two alternatives are just as good. So what we're going to do is put the cling film over the top, and I'm going to outline it. Now I've already got some silver outliner in this outlining bag, and I'll just snip off the end to the right size of hole that I want, and then we can just outline it. There you go. Take your design away, and there you have your Scrumbly. Scrumbly, that's the name of the character, outlined onto your cling film. Now just put that to one side and let that dry. Now I've got one here that I've already started. Now I'm using the water-based paints on these, rainbow water-based paints, and all you do is take your paint and just squeeze some of the paint out onto the area. And take your brush and just dab it on, just spreading out the paint gently, trying to get it nice and even. There you go, a little bit gone over there, just wipe it off with your finger. Touch it up there. There you go, that's the Scrumbly painted. Now all you have to do is, when that's dry, is just cut it out with a pair of scissors. Just go right up to the edge. As close to the outliner as you can. And that's as far as I'm going to go, because I've got one finished. But just before I move on to the next bit, just a little bit of explanation about the water-based paints. They work really well on all kinds of glass and all the rest of the plastics, but on the cling film you'll find you'll get some kind of reaction. So if you try to water it down, it will react almost like putting oil on water. It'll just kind of all gather and it will not flow properly onto the water, onto the film. So as you can see, it's all spreading out really badly. So the water-based paint is fine for the cling film so long as you keep it straight out of the bottle. Don't try and water it down, okay? So anyway, when the scrumbly is finally cut out, you'll end up with something like that. Now all you have to do is just peel the backing off, which helps if you've got nails, like so. There you go, you end up something like that. And you just lay it down onto the glass. And just press it down. Obviously you can do that onto a vertical window or whatever you want. And then the beauty of this is that you can just peel it on and off as often as you like. One tip is try not to make your designs too big, because if they're too big there's a tendency for them to be a little bit heavy and they'll start rolling down from the top. So there you are, one cling filmed scrumbly.
This is the Rainbow Glass thick film. Now this is an especially useful product in that it enables you to make a whole variety of projects, but it's especially good for making mobiles or greetings cards, or you could even make jewellery from it. When these are painted later on I could make them into earrings, or I could make a star badge out of this. Now all you do is put the design behind the film. I'm going to make a greetings card by the way, outline it in the normal way, and to save time I outlined one earlier on. And as you can see, this is outlined with silver outliner, and to save a little bit more time I've actually partially painted this for you as well. Right, so all I'm going to do now is paint the star with yellow water-based paint that I've watered down a little, and then when that's dry I can cut it out and turn it into a card. Now, when the card is dry, I can cut it out and turn it into a greetings card. Just to save a little bit of time, I've got one that was already painted earlier on, and I'll just show you how it folds now and turns into a card. So you take it like this, you make sure that all the points meet each other, like so. And press down the centre firmly. And there you are. There's your greetings card. Or you can personalise your card using a silver or a gold pen, as I am. There you are. Or you could do one like this using gold and silver outliner. That's the same with that one. And like the same with that one. Or if you want to get a really special effect, you could add some self-adhesive glitter film, as we have done with this card.
This is our Rainbow Glass extra thick film, named after Barry. Now there's a few things you have to do with this before you start working on it. It has a protective coating on it, so all you have to do is just peel this off before you start. But one tip is, do this an hour or so before you want to use it, because otherwise when you start to outline onto it, you'll find that your outliner will start doing line dancing all over the place with the static electricity. You can also wipe it with a feather duster, which is actually specially treated with the anti-static, or one of those special cloths that they wipe vinyl records with. So there's your extra thick film. Now this is great because you can replace anything that you do in glass normally with this stuff. And the good thing about this is that you can cut it out with scissors, like so. You can use a hot knife, one of these, or it's really good if you want to bend it, but you have to do a little preparation before you do. If you try to bend it like that, it'd be quite difficult and it wouldn't exactly bend where you wanted it to go. So what you do is you take a ruler and you just take a screwdriver, a flat-headed screwdriver. You don't want a scalpel or anything like that, just something blunt, and you just mark it, press down hard where you want the bend to be. See that? And now when you bend that, it will bend exactly where you've marked it. And you don't get a wobbly line then, and it gives you a nice straight line so you can stand things up like that. So that's great if you want to make a clock or something like this, and then you just take one A4 size piece of extra thick film, bend it, and then paint on just one side, and you've got a stand as well. So that's the extra thick film. Now I've got a piece of film here that I actually whipped all the blue plastic coating off first, and I've got a design, and now I'm going to outline it. I have an outlining bag, put some outliner in, don't forget, keep your bottle upside down. Cut a bit off the end, and you can start outlining your fish.